Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Rough Motor City Madmouth. Great crew tonight. Before I go ahead and get to my crew, I want to let everybody know that this broadcast is going to be the toughest championship to win in professional sports. So we're going to lead off with that in just a moment. First of all, introduce you to my crew, Rick Curti, also known as Mr. Opinion. Welcome back, Mr. Curti. I know we had a busy week for you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back, Scott. Thanks for having me on your program.
You're very welcome. And George Eichorn, the guy that helped create the show many, many moons ago when Mel Farr's dad was in Detroit selling cars. George Eichorn and I were creating the Sports Exchange on radio, numerous stations. Welcome back, George.
Good to be here.
Glad you're regular on the Sports Exchange, my friend, because after all of it, we started it and now we is continuing it. And
that's great.
And I should
glad to see that.
I should point out that George Eichorn is also the co-host of Fire Up Michigan. And last but not least, my running back friend, colleague, Mel Farr Jr. Welcome back to the broadcast, Mel.
Great to be back. Thank you.
You're very welcome. We enjoy having you back, and we're going to be keeping you very busy over the next several months doing lots of different projects. So we are glad you're back, and we're going to be very active as we continue to plot shows out going forward. So with that said, okay, I'm not going to make a liar out of myself. But before I get to the first topic, I'll let everybody know that you can follow us on www.southfloridatribune.com. Please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. And you can find these broadcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts and Tribune. And you can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. With that said, we'll get to the first topic. And we're going to lead off with Mr. Farr. All right, Mel, tell me the toughest championship to win. Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL.
The toughest championship to win. Heck, they're all tough.
And English Premier League is not one of the choices.
Yeah, I don't even know how that whole thing works over there.
Me either. I'll just
that is a great question. And you know what? I've never really given any thought to it because all championships are difficult to win. Because
your first,
particularly, I would say probably because of the injury factor, and only maybe because the injury factor is football. Because injuries can derail your season, especially. Right. But that's in any sport. Baseball, maybe not so much. Maybe if you have maybe if your ace pitcher goes down or something like that, maybe. But football, I'd have to say, because if your quarterback goes down, it's done. There just aren't. I mean, we know there's not 32 capable quarterbacks in the NFL anyway. I mean, all things are not created equal going into the season. And if you're one of those teams that really has playoff aspirations, Super Bowl aspirations, and are really one of those teams that most people figure are in the hunt, if you lose your quarterback, that can derail your season. Now, the rules have changed in such that it's very difficult for your quarterback to get knocked out of the game. But we saw it last year with Jameis Winston going down, and we saw what happened with New Orleans last year, how their fortunes changed with him going down. But I'd probably say football.
I like being able to present questions you've never had to deal with before, because you know what? I'd like to think that at least somebody's going to go out there and break the ice in an area that you haven't been to, because this is a thinking man's show anyways. So we like to challenge everybody to go ahead. My goodness, never occurred to me before. That's a good question. How many times I've heard that anyways over our years? It's a good question. Well, if you didn't think it was a good question, you wouldn't ask it. I don't mean to be sarcastic about it, but it's all about thinking. And you know what? I know the one thing I agree with you on toward the NFL choice football is it isn't the best team that wins the championship. It's the healthiest one at the end.
And, without question. I mean, it's a team that can endure, that has the ability to, you got to get a little lucky. You got to get a lot lucky in the game of football. And if you can have all, your best players healthy at the end of the year, then you have a great chance to compete in the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. But again, health is important in all sports. Those teams with smaller rosters are even more important. Basketball, obviously, if LeBron James goes down, we know the Lakers are done. But I think there's other teams. I think with other teams, you've seen other people step in, and they're kind of able to keep things together. Unless you're looking at one of the elite players like a Steph Curry, LeBron James, one of those kind of players. But in the NFL, if you lose your quarterback, it's done. It's over with for the most part. Now, St. Louis, they lost their quarterback and ended up getting this guy who was a grocery store clerk or whatever, who played in the Arena League, and he ended up going on, having a phenomenal season, going from the third string quarterback to all of a sudden being a starting quarterback and winning the Super Bowl. So
even Tom Brady, look at him. Look what happened to Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah, right. Well, and the guy you're referring to, by the way, is Kurt Warner too, Mel.
Yeah, some guy named Kurt Warner.
Green,
He's pretty good.
Warner comes in. No, I mean, that to me was the most unbelievable thing. The first time I ever got wind of anything as a kid, George, you probably know it as well as I do, was when Gary Danielson went down, Joe Reed went down, and all of a sudden Jeff Tomlow, a 9th-round pick out of Delaware, took over, and a 9th-round pick thrust into the starting role. And then I realized how important it was. And Danielson goes down during the final preseason game against the Baltimore Colts. So whatever Mel's saying, and I think you can relate to a lot of those guys, that's when I got wind of how important the quarterback was. But no, I'm with you. It's not always the best team in the NFL that wins. It's how many times have you seen the best record not win the championship in the NFL? It's one that's probably somewhere in between. So everything you're saying, Mel, makes a tremendous amount of sense. So with that said, we're going to pivot over to Rick Curti. Rick, you know the question now. Give me your answer.
Well, to me, they're all very, very difficult. Winning a championship is very, very difficult. But for me, it has to be Major League Baseball. I mean, the season is grueling. If they play over 160 games, the traveling is crazy. They got to play in very hot, humid areas like Georgia and Florida and all that. And I mean, it's just a long, long, long season, much longer than NFL and NBA. They have to play like back-to-back games. They have to have there's sometimes they play like 10 games in a row and all these series or 4 or 5 game series. It's just, to me, it's hard. It's just grueling. I don't even know how they do it. And all of them are difficult, like I said, winning a sport. But to me, it has to be Major League Baseball just because the season is so long, the traveling, and it's just a long, long, grueling season.
All right, George, what do you think?
Well, if you go by history here in Detroit, obviously you're going to go with pro football. As Mel can relate to this, his dad played for the Lions, and that was one of the many, many stars in Detroit that failed to see a championship. Detroit hasn't won the championship since 1956, as Scott and I know all painfully too well, and Mel knows too, and now you know, Rick. The Lions have won one postseason game, count them, one since 1956, as they beat the Dallas Cowboys. Remember, Scott, you were there covering it, and I was too.
Well, actually, I wasn't at that game. I was actually covering the Rose Bowl in Pasadena.
Oh, okay.
Right. Instead, that was a nice game to go.
Yeah.
But
I agree with Mel. I mean, that quarterback goes down, and Scott, you gave a great example with Danielson going down. And then, of course, they had a good quarterback in Matthew Stafford, and we see how that worked out. Right. Very difficult, very grueling season. Now 17 games. We had superstars like Mel Farr and Billy Sims and Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson that couldn't bring a championship to Detroit. And it's not only Detroit. I mean, the Cleveland Browns have been waiting forever. Seattle's been there but never won a championship. And there's other teams, but Buffalo Bills, Minnesota Vikings, come on.
Panthers.
They had Super Bowl records. All I'm saying is that I think football is very, very tough. And you were spot on, Mel, about the quarterback going down, or perhaps it could be a wide receiver and possibly a running back too, but more likely than not, it's the quarterback going down. But I'll tell you what, one of my sleepers for one of the toughest is hockey. These guys have to go in and talk about grinding it. Oh my gosh. I mean, these series are tough. Best out of 7 series. You see who survives. Colorado's in there right now, and so is Edmonton. And then we have the Rangers, and we have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are going for an unprecedented 3 in a row, possibly, championship. but that's a grueling sport. And you're playing that hockey and you're going at it and you've got injuries bugging you. And then look at the goalie situation. You talk about a hot person and the quarterback, you got to have a hot goalie in hockey to sustain it in the National Hockey League and in the Stanley Cup Finals. And Scott and I have seen that with guys like Mike Vernon in Detroit and Chris Osgood and Dominic Hasek. The Red Wings couldn't have done it without those three hot goalies, to just name the ones that won the championships here in the most recent past. But hockey's another one in my mind that's very, very difficult. I mean, it's a close for me. 1A would be the NFL and 1B would be the NHL, Scott.
Yeah, I've got Rick Curti all over the place with George Eichorn. Can't make up his darn mind. So go ahead and waffle. But I won't tell you that hockey was
baseball.
I will go out there and tell you hockey was my answer. And the reason why I say that is once upon a time you only needed to win 8 games. That's why they call it an octopus to do it. Now you've got to win 16. Yes, okay. The grueling series of physicality, the overtimes could go 5, 6, 7 strong or whatever. Hockey to me is clearly, okay, the toughest championship to win, especially in regards to the tournament. Don't forget you're playing 82 games. Now these guys have to be a lot more athletic than they've ever had to be because it's a much faster pace than it was during the original 6-12, 8-12 or whatever, 18, until it became more physical. So, I don't know. To me, it's a no-brainer with hockey. I understand the football point of view. Rick, I do understand the baseball point of view where it is a marathon. But don't tell me that a baseball player takes a punishment than an NHL player does. No way. Let alone the fact that you have 16 wins to win it all. With all due respect, okay, the Florida Panthers won their first playoff series in 26, 27 years. And you know what? No, not knocking the local team around here, okay? Who knows when they'll win another one. But what it'll tell you about hockey is the President's Cup doesn't mean a darn thing. It's how you play when you get to the postseason.
That's right.
You are. Teams are physical. You're in the series. They're making adjustments game in and game out. And to get those 16 wins to lift that Stanley Cup, to me, whether you drink in it, whether you just do whatever you want to do, to me, I don't think there's a doubt. Winning 16 games on a hot goaltender with the physicality of the NHL, hockey is my clear-cut favorite. Understanding football and understanding baseball and basketball, I don't think so. I mean, not the way the NBA is being played today. It's called the Patty Cake Bakers Man League. Okay, we're not talking about bad boys basketball. So, all right, but I won't pick on the NBA anymore because we're going to have to talk about this in a moment. So, with that said, we're going to go ahead and slide over from the toughest championship to win to a trending topic that's taken place over the last week or so. Colin Kaepernick worked out for the Raiders. Of course, his original workout was with the Michigan Wolverines at the Big House. And Mike Tannenbaum thinks that a good spot for Kaepernick would be the Carolina Panthers. The Raiders could be certainly a good one as well. And he feels that developing Matt Corral would be a good move for the Panthers, as well as good competition for Sam Darnold. So I know what Rick Curti is going to go ballistic on this one. And I don't want to run over time tonight because he's never going to quit it after ranting here. So we're going to go with our football guy, Mel Farr. And the thing is Kaepernick's attitude is now that, hey, you know what? They got the Black Lives Matter helmets out there, the end racism in the end zone, so he doesn't feel the social problem is going to be there. If he's not good enough, cut me, which at least you kind of feel his mindset makes you want to think that he deserves another chance. But, Mel, is Colin Kaepernick ever going to take another NFL snap?
Let's see. Colin is 34 years old now, I think. 33, 34 years old now. He's been out of the game 3-4 years. I can't say it's not because of his lack of talent is the reason why he won't take another snap. I just don't know if he's going to get another opportunity. Anytime you have an older guy like that, a veteran guy like that, who you're not saying is going to be your franchise quarterback, then you're taking reps away from somebody you could be potentially developing for some sort of position later on, whether it's the primary backup role or eventually, to be the franchise quarterback. But I don't think I don't think it has anything to do with a lack of talent. I think there's, again, we talked about it, there's 32 jobs out there. I believe that he's one of the better 32 quarterbacks in the league, one of the better 32 quarterbacks. Now, he's not in the league right now, but I think there's guys that he can beat, that he's better than. The guy at Houston, I think he's better than Sam Darnold and whoever they have at Carolina. I definitely think that I would much rather have Colin Kaepernick than either one of those two guys that they have there in Carolina. I could go down the list and say where I would much rather have Colin Kaepernick than who they have currently. Whether or not he gets that opportunity or not, I don't know. I don't think Las Vegas is a great place for him because Derek Carr has been pretty dependable. Right. Other than that 1 year when I think he broke his leg when they went to the playoffs before John Gruden got there, I believe it was. But he's been durable, and I think I think Derek Carr is he's a good NFL quarterback. Put the proper pieces around him, and you have a chance. They play in a tough division, though. That is a tough division, and it just got tougher. So, we will see. I can't say whether or not I don't think so, to be honest with you. I don't think we'll see him take another snap. I really don't.
Okay, that's fair. All right, Rick, get it over with because I know you're going to take longer than George, and I have some thoughts.
Absolutely not. He is blackballed by the NFL. They don't have to tell us. It's very obvious they don't want him back. They have guys sitting on their couches, being quarterbacks, and it's just he's so polarizing, and they just don't want to deal with that. You're gonna have people upset, fans saying, "Hey, I'm not gonna go because this guy disrespects the flag. He's been gone for a while." He also was on the decline as well. He wasn't really the same, so you saw that. He's gotten older. And I heard Tannenbaum saying that the Panthers would be a good fit. We have an arena team in Charlotte called the Charlotte Thunder. So, I could see him going there. But NFL, absolutely not. He's done. He'll never be back. The Raiders tried him out. I just think that was just for show. He's blackballed by the NFL, whether people think that or not, but I just don't see him coming, especially with the ownership, how it is. You have a bunch of rich, white, conservative owners there that they don't want nothing to do with him. It's not, and some teams are just like, say, it's not worth it. It's not worth the hassle. It's sort of like when Michael Vick, remember when Vick went to the Eagles and they got absolutely lambasted. And I see some teams getting lambasted too by fans and some sponsors saying, we don't want this guy here. We don't like him. He's un-American. He's unpatriotic, whatever. I just don't see it happening.
What about you, George?
I don't think it's going to happen either. I give Jim Harbaugh quite a credit. He brought him into the big house at the spring game that Michigan had a month or so ago, and certainly made a lot of waves by doing that and letting him throw some passes. And then now, of course, the Raiders with this tryout. I kind of think the same way as Rick, and I'll tell you why, because Goodell doesn't want any more problems than he has to have right now. That whole thing with the domestic violence issue and the black mark that kind of left on the league with some of his sentences weren't consistent for a lot of the players. And I have to lean in that direction that Rick does, because the sponsors don't want any more problems. They don't want any more controversies that'll take away from their product. You got these huge television contracts that are being dished out. And you got the streaming involved now, and you got all these new contracts that were handed out to ESPN, ABC, and CBS, and Fox, and NBC, and all them. And it's something that they don't want to admit it, but I kind of agree that that things that he's been blackballed, and talent-wise, we don't know. Like you said, Mel, 33, 34 years old right now. He's been away from the game for so many years now. It would be definitely a big chance and a big risk. And I don't see the teams doing that right now, at least, even though I agree, Mel, that he's got the arm and probably the strength and talent to be on a starter and on many of these teams. But I just don't think the league is going to want to do it. And they'll deny it. But I think it has been a blackball issue.
All right. Well, you know what? Believe it or not, I'm going to take a different stance on every one of you guys. Okay. And I'll tell you what I think. All right. And this is something I've given a lot of thought before we decided to talk about it tonight. If he does land a job, and I repeat, if he lands a job, I could see where he could go to the Raiders because you have to look at who their backup quarterbacks. Jared Stidham was just acquired, and Nick Mullins. Okay, so you don't know what you've got there.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, you're only talking about a 90-man roster. We're not talking 53. Okay, so what do you have to lose? Okay, by bringing him on for a tryout and giving him a shot during the preseason to see what he's got. Mind you, you only have 3 preseason games, but you want to at least find out what's what to see if you have anything there. Now, again, yes, he's been blackballed. We all know about his stance, and I commend him for doing it. He may have been ahead of his time with the stance because obviously there has been progress made in that area when it comes to the Black Lives Matters movement on the helmets and the end zones. But I'll give you a few teams that would make sense. You never rule out the Raiders because the Raiders have always done things differently, anyways. George, if you're really worried about public relations issues, okay, don't tell me that the Dallas Cowboys didn't give Greg Hardy enough opportunities to stay in the league and they still kept bringing him around. It's not like the NFL, okay, you're bringing in a bunch of choir boys. Don't tell me that Antonio Brown, okay, albeit he was productive, but Kaepernick came a play away from winning the Super Bowl until the movement ultimately cost him his job because he was ahead of his time. So we're not dealing with a bunch of choir boys whatsoever. Now, I'm going to look at potential teams that fits. Nobody's going to sit here and tell me that the Seattle Seahawks, that you're going to win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith. And I don't think Drew Lock is probably a guy that I stand a better chance of winning with Kaepernick than that Kentucky Derby horse did winning the Rich, whatever his name was, Strike It Rich. I don't even know what it was. So if he can win the Kentucky Derby, you never know. Pete Carroll might consider doing it depending on how you assess your quarterback situation, especially as you analyze OTAs. But I think the most logical places should be Houston, even though we haven't heard much about them at all, Seattle, and I would say Charlotte, because what do you have? PJ Walker there?
Yeah, we have nobody.
Your quarterback's
revolving door.
That great. We don't know what's going to happen with Baker Mayfield, and we also don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's busted up anyways. You know where he's going to lie. So, well, I think it's unlikely. I would be in this situation. Never say never. That I think he's worth at least a shot, with knowing that the rosters are 90 men rosters, and get him to training camp. And at that particular point, if he doesn't make it, then at least you won't have to worry about his ability. He hasn't taken a hit in 5 or 6 years either. So while he hasn't taken a snap, he hasn't gotten busted up. The question is what kind of physical condition he is. Can he handle the hits and so forth? But, I agree. There was no question he was going to get blackballed because of what he did. But I think time has come with a lot of the things going on that maybe it's worth the time. Mel, I didn't have you on last Wednesday's show, the Memorial Day thing, but I think when you look at what took place in Texas, to me, I think you can appreciate some of the things that Gabe Kapler has done, as well as Steve Kerr. And we'll transition to the NBA.
Absolutely. I mean, and I wanted to touch on something real quick. You
Sure.
guys are talking about the NFL was concerned about, advertising sponsors and stuff like that. I think we've established after the George Floyd incident, what Colin Kaepernick did had nothing to do with the flag. I think we've established that. Now, what Colin Kaepernick did is you're talking about, if they're concerned about an image problem, what Deshaun Watson has 23 women that have accused him of rape, and they're, they don't have a problem with paying him, whatever kind of money he just got, fully guaranteed. Jerry Jones, a young lady's accused, says that, he won't recognize her as his lawful child. You got the stuff going on in Washington with the sexual harassment and all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to hear that they care about the image. They don't care about the image. They care about money. That's what they care about. They care about money, putting eyeballs to the television and fannies in the seat. And there's no one perfect. What Colin Kaepernick did is far less harmful to anyone than what Jerry Jones did, Daniel Snyder is accused of, and certainly with what Deshaun Watson is accused of. All he did is, and he said it, but everybody else tried to put words in his mouth and tried to interpret it the way that they wanted it. They grabbed a hold of it and made it what they wanted it versus what he said it was. He said exactly what it was. The reason why he knelt rather as opposed to sitting down, he talked to a Navy SEAL, I believe it was, and he said, hey, no, sitting down is disrespectful. If you kneel for the flag, that's more respectful, and you can still, you're still honoring the men and women that served in this country. So he did it in a respectful manner. He didn't just come up with it. He took time and he counseled and he talked to somebody, and the guy stood next to him too while he did it. So
I am so glad that you brought up the Deshaun Watson thing. I really, really am. And I think that's an excellent point. Cleveland gave him all this money. They have his contract. The 1 year anticipating to get nailed for a year anyways. And of course, I'll forget what Mad Dog Russo said today with Stephen A. Smith. I was watching that. Is they should get 2 years instead of one because Cleveland already anticipated a year anyway. But the fact that you, Mel, brought up Deshaun Watson to me is another reason why I think Colin Kaepernick should go ahead and get another opportunity. And if the NFL can get through that thing, I'm not to say I'm rooting for him. I do believe he deserves another opportunity to play in the league, especially if the quarterbacks aren't that great anyhow, and there's room for a suitable backup, because I already illustrated earlier in the show that one quarterback goes down, you're in trouble. You did too. Everybody's been consistent with that philosophy all night anyways. So is Colin Kaepernick capable? I don't know, but I do believe in my mind he deserves another shot. And you never know. Maybe the Baltimore Ravens will give him a chance this time because, after all, who's coaching? John Harbaugh. Even though you haven't seen it brought up, you never know. I don't know what their backup situation. So, in retrospect, I think you deserve another chance.
Think about, I think Rick talked about he was on the decline. Think about it. Jim Harbaugh had left that year, and his coach was the guy at UCLA now, Chip Kelly.
Yeah. For
that 1 year that he was there. So, you got a different offensive scheme that Chip runs versus what Harbaugh runs. Harbaugh right now is doing the same stuff that he did at Stanford, which is the same stuff that he was doing at San Francisco, is that power running game, and you throw it occasionally. And Kaepernick was, in the zone read. I mean, he was unbelievable. I mean, he's unstoppable in that zone read scheme that that Jim Harbaugh had him in. Yeah. So, I mean, you put him in the right offense. Now, I don't know if his wheels are the same as they were 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, 4 or 5 years. Even though he may not have any wear and tear on them tires, it's still not the same. I mean, it's still 4 or 5 years without running. You get older, ligaments, hamstrings, muscles, they tend to pull and all those kind of things. So it's a little bit different when you get older.
No, I agree. I mean, it's not like Tim Tebow, who got a favor from Urban Meyer to go out there and play, and we all know how that worked out.
Yeah, tight end. Yeah.
But my point is with you, okay, we don't know if his wheels are the same, but the only thing I'm going to say about it is it's a 90-man roster right now, not 53. Let me see what the guy can do in 1 or 2 preseason games, then make a determination if he's any good. If he's not, again, you had your opportunity.
You're taking reps from younger kids.
Right.
When I was my first year in the league, it was my camp. The camp was 150. That was before the veterans got there. There's 150 folks running around there, so you could take all the looks that you wanted to folks because you could bring in as many people as you wanted to.
Right.
And Dan Reeves came from that Tom Landry philosophy. That's what Dallas did, and that's how they were able to find a lot of guys that the guys that ended up being good ball players for them down there at Dallas. Is they bring a whole lot of folks into camp, and the best man, best man win. The last man standing is what it was, kind of.
Well, you hate to see him take reps from a younger player, but at least you know that if you're bringing him for OTAs or you're bringing him in for training camp, while the reps are important, the coaches have to do the best they can to bring in the guys that they think are the best players. And there's no exact science to this whole thing, Mel. We both know that. that they think there are personnel directors and all. So yeah, it'll be an interesting story to see how it plays up. But it's interesting how the Raiders got it going. I'll be curious to see whether the Panthers get involved. Seattle, the most obvious landing spots, and Houston.
That'd be a great place for him to go.
What's that?
Seattle would be a great place for him to go.
Oh, I
Pete
think
Carroll
so.
said he said he would sign him. Remember, he kept saying that a couple of times that he wish he had Kaepernick. If I could
Well,
say something real quick, I never
Yeah.
said that I don't think Kaepernick deserves a shot. The question was, do you think he'll be in the NFL? And the answer is no, because we know how the NFL is. It's the National Hypocrite League. And that's what they are. They are a bunch of hypocrites, especially with the ownership, with Daniel Snyder. I mean, they booted, Jerry Richardson like right away, took his statue down. And look at Daniel Snyder, all the allegations, of course,
Right.
with Deshaun Watson, with
Same
now
thing in
23
Dallas. Look at all the
women.
allegations in Dallas.
Yeah, and it's just the hypocrite league. That's all it is. They have different set of rules for owners, different set of rules for some players. And does he deserve a shot? Absolutely. He's better than a whole bunch of quarterbacks. I mean, the Panthers, he's better than the whole quarterbacks for the Panthers. So should he get a shot? Absolutely. But it's the National Hypocrite League. He will get it. And they'll just keep saying because of what his stance and he's polarizing, yada, yada, yada. And we all know it's a bunch of BS.
Well, Rick, I'm glad you clarified your position on there. Again, the main thing is we know it's a hot subject anyways, and I think time will play out. I think they're going to have mandatory OTAs pretty soon where everybody has to show up. But yeah, you're right. There definitely aren't no choir boys in the NFL by any stretch. I mean, there's the league is flawed in a lot of ways, but yet meanwhile, it's probably the most
You're not
popular.
going to win with a bunch of choir boys. I've always said that. You got to have some guys with some rap sheets on your team. That's one thing we say about UCLA.
Oh, did you?
Versus USC. USC always had a couple marginal guys, couple questionable guys, some guys with some rap sheets. UCLA, we had a bunch of, we had a lot of nice guys on our team. You got to have some guys that, that like to tote that line and, sometimes occasionally cross it.
Yeah.
You got to have a few of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But, he's been out for so long. He's got a lot of work
A
conditioning.
lot of rust. I mean, Colin he didn't throw a very catchable ball. Colin's not a traditional drop back passer. He kind of throws the ball more
He's very,
like a
very,
javelin.
very
He throws it
mobile.
more like a javelin than like a football. I mean, you look at pure passers like, your Tom Brady's and your Peyton Manning's, classic over the top, even your Drew Brees.
Pocket quarterbacks.
He throws it more like a javelin than a football. It looks like a javelin when he throws. He throws it like a javelin. That's the best way I can describe it.
Okay,
Good
well,
point, Mel.
I mean, like pocket quarterbacks too, and he's definitely not a pocket quarterback. I mean, he's got some wheels on him at that time, so we'll see. I mean, he deserves a shot, but will he get it?
Again, no, we've all admitted. I mean, he took the team to the Super Bowl. I mean, he took the team to the Super Bowl in an offense that was designed for him. Jim Harbaugh did an outstanding job in designing that offense to fit Colin Kaepernick, and it gave the league fits. And we know they changed some rules where they allowed the linebackers to hit him. If he was outside of the tackle box or whatever the case may have been, they were able to go ahead and hit him underneath the chin because they wanted to try to contain him and keep him in the pocket. That's what defenses wanted to do, to take away from that his ability to hide the weenie with the football. Actually giving the ball away, carrying on a fake. He could carry on a fake and he could get clocked because he was carrying on a fake. So, they kind of took, because he was so successful, they changed some of the rules because of Colin Kaepernick.
Well, I guess it's safe to say Colin Kaepernick has his footprint all over the NFL in more ways than one. So, and each and every one of you make great points. That's why I was glad we were able to talk about it tonight, because now that he's back in the news and at least there's a little bit of lukewarm interest, at least for the eyeball test. I know we will be talking about this on a later edition of the Sports Exchange or Inside the Pigskin. So we'll go ahead and take it from the NFL to the NBA. The finals begin tomorrow night over at the Chase Center out in San Francisco. You had the Boston Celtics taking on the Golden State Warriors. The last time that these two teams faced each other was in 1964 in the finals. Boston won it in 5 games. Now, let me just mention some of the players out there. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, making his first final appearance in 141 games, which is an NBA record, 14 seasons. Marcus Smart. These guys held a Miami Heat to 80 points in 2 games. And of course, the Golden State Warriors have carved their own niche. This was their sixth final appearance in 8 years. They're led by Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, and Klay Thompson. What can I tell you? This is a heck of a series. It's a series a lot of people wanted to see. I love what Udomi, Ika, and Brad Stevens have done with Boston. And of course, we know Steve Kerr's done a marvelous job with the Warriors. So, all right, George, you know what? I'm going to let you lead off with this one. We saw a lot of epic battles with Boston and the Pistons over the years, but we're talking Boston, Golden State. How do you size up the NBA Finals, George?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the last time they met. It's unbelievable. Since 1964, there were 14 Hall of Famers that were in that game, including 2 referees, Mendy Rudolph and Earl Strom,
Right.
but 12 players and coaches from both the San Francisco Warriors and the Celtics suited up. Guys like Havlicek and Heinsohn and Casey Jones and Sam Jones and Will Chamberlain and Nate Thurman and Red Auerbach and Alex Hannum, the coaches. And this is a great matchup, Scott and guys. This is what I've been waiting for. It's going to be a hell of a battle. There's no way I can go against my Michigan and Michigan State guys. I'm not going to go against Poole. I'm not going to go against Draymond Green. The Warriors are going to win this series, but it's going to be a slugfest. It's
How
going to
many
be
games?
made for television drama. ABC and ESPN will be there all the way. It's going to go 6 or 7 games, but Golden State is going to prevail. They're hungry. They're ready. They've been waiting for this. They've been waiting for a healthy team the last several years. And it's unbelievable the dynasty that Kerr and the boys have gotten out there. So I'm going to go with Golden State to win it all. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be a battle. Because like you said, Scott, Boston, the things that they did against Miami were unreal. And some of those games, they just stifled Miami's offense. And I tell you what, it's going to be a great game, but I'm going to go with Golden State in 6.
Okay, that's all I know. I want exact game totals. You say Golden State.
Sure.
Okay, Rick, it's your turn.
Yeah, I agree with George. I see Golden State winning this. I love to see Boston do it. I can't stand Golden State, to be quite honest with you. And but they're a great team, great dynasty. Can't take anything away from them. They got Klay Thompson back, who's healthy. I love to see the Celtics, but I agree with George. I think the Warriors have way too much firepower, and I see them winning in 6.
All right, Mel.
Yeah, the one thing you have to admire about Golden State is the way they built this team. They built the team the right way through the draft, keep adding players here and there. I like Boston and what they do. It kind of reminds me of old 80s basketball, watching Boston and Miami play. A lot of great defense. I like defense. I don't like a guy to step over the half court line and jack up a 3. And I don't like watching that kind of basketball. I like to see inside, outside, even though teams don't do it as much, but I like to see a little bit more inside, outside. I like to see a nice little pick and roll. I like the ball movement. Both teams like to move the ball, but Boston plays great defense. The kid Jaylen Brown went to school with my daughter out here in Marietta. I like their team. I like their squad. I just don't know if they have enough firepower to deal with everything that the problems that Golden State presents. And Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Jordan Poole, they cause problems because they can step over the half court line, and that's a good shot. And I believe if the longer the series goes on, the more it favors Golden State because they've been there before. As much as I would like to see Boston win, and I'm telling you, I can't stand Golden State. I'm like, I don't like Golden State at all. But
I can't either.
I really think that Boston is up and coming. I think they do have some health issues. Jason Tatum, I don't know. I don't think he's 100% healthy. Marcus Smart, I know he was kind of in and out of the lineup a little bit. I don't know what his health is like. I just don't think they have enough points, enough scores. The one guy that they're calling Curry, the first game, because he shot a record 3s. He kind of disappeared in the last number of games for Boston. So I have Golden State in 5. I don't think the series is going to go very long. I'm going to say Boston will get one game somewhere along the line, but Golden State is hungry. They want to be back there. Draymond Green, he's going to come up with a reason to be upset and to be angry, so he's going to be fired up. because he wasn't voted first team all defense. So those three guys, man, that three-headed monster, man, is going to be tough to deal with.
All I'll say about Draymond Green is he could play in any era of basketball, the 80s, the 70s. This guy is unbelievable. I love watching him. But you know what? We got 3 Golden State Warriors, and you're not going to get a fourth. I'll tell you right now. I don't know why. It's just a weird feeling I have.
I hope you're right.
I can't help it, guys. I really can't. I'm going with Boston in 6.
I hope you're right.
I hope so.
I hope you're right. I mean, look at my feelings won't be hurt.
Okay, well, good. I won't be Crow either.
Golden State.
No way.
Boston at 6, and I'm going to tell you why.
But I'm trying to take my emotions out of it and just looking at it, looking at the rosters and just what I've seen, the eye test, and I don't know. I don't have any emotion on this. So Golden State is underrated as a defensive team as well. Golden State they play very good team defense. So, I don't
have emotions on this selection. I'll tell you why. I'm going with Boston at 6. Number one, they did a good job holding Miami to 80 points on 2 occasions. Okay,
who could score for Miami? Only person shooting was Jimmy Butler. Hero was hurt. Nobody else can shoot. There's no other shooters there. Bam, but he wasn't a threat from 3 or anything like that. So I mean, there's no shooters out there.
Okay, well that's fine, but they still held.
One guy was like 0 for 17. The one guy Struce, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
All right, well, that's a good line. I'll have to remember that he hadn't hit the broadside of a barn. But I'm still going to give you my reasons why I believe in Boston, because you guys want me to be right. You just don't think I'm going to be right. So, but here's the thing. For me, okay, the road to the finals is a far difficult one for Boston. Think about it, okay? They got rid of Brooklyn very easily. I don't care about Kyrie or Kevin Durant. They still got rid of them in 4. They beat the Milwaukee Bucks, albeit without Chris Middleton, but they battled hard, and they proved they can win important games on the road. And they did take out supposedly the number 1 seed with the Miami Heat. So, their road to the finals was more difficult to get to than Golden State. I mean, and now think about it. Golden State, who did they beat first? They beat, help me out a little bit. I know that Phoenix got knocked out by Dallas, so they didn't have to deal with Dallas, okay? They beat Memphis, and then, of course, they ended up beating Dallas. So, again, you know what? It's one of those things. And here's the thing. They're playing on house money. They expect each and every one of you, along with millions of people, to think that they're not going to win it. Okay, and we're talking about long shots. I'm going to go back to the Kentucky Derby. I don't remember the horse's name. All I know, it was either Strike Rich, whatever. Don't grade me, folks, if I don't follow horse racing out there at all. And it doesn't matter. I believe in underdogs and miracles. It probably will take every bit of one of those for this to happen, okay? But, I'm not selling Boston's defense short. If Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown get going, then you never know. Al Horford, how do you not root for a guy this is 141 games not getting there, and all of a sudden, holy moly, I'm finally going to get to the play for the big show. Yeah, I don't underestimate Marcus Smart. And the coach that they have has certainly won titles, I believe, with San Antonio. So it's not like he's a championship caliber coach. So, I mean,
he's done a great job with that team. You have to admit that. And for us, from being from Detroit, picking Boston, that's tough, man. I mean, that's tough. That is taking emotions out of it.
I'm from Los Angeles.
That I would like to see Boston win is tough because I can't stand Boston.
Well, I know you can't stand Boston.
I can't stand Golden State.
I can't stand Golden State either, but just naturally from the Pistons and the Celtics,
just the offense
you can't like Boston with
but I love to
things
see Boston
that the Pistons had to go through.
But I've also been taught in the business to be objective too, and I do know that the score is 17-17 Lakers and Boston titles wise, and I think Boston would love nothing better to make it 18-17, and I don't see the Lakers getting their 18th championship any good, no matter how good Darvin Ham is. You still have a lot of problems there. So, yeah, you're right, Mel. It takes a lot of guts for me to go out there and go out on the limb, being a Detroiter, to go for Boston. But I will say this much. When the Pistons beat the bad boys, and they overcame that hurdle, There, I remember Kevin McHale and the rest of them would say, "Go out there and beat these guys," because they hated the Lakers. And the Celtics showed a lot of class in losing the Eastern Conference Final, passing the torch to the Pistons, and the Pistons obviously won 2 championships in a 3-year period. So I don't know, Mel.
Didn't the Celtics start by not shaking hands? Weren't they the first ones to not shake hands? And then the
I thought it
Pistons
was
did
the
that to the
Pistons that
Bulls?
didn't shake hands with the Bulls because the Bulls disrespected them, when the Pistons were, finally slipping up. No, I
No, I
always
think,
thought the Boston.
I think that was the Bulls and the Pistons.
I know the Bulls, and I know the Pistons did it to the Bulls, but I could swear I remember Larry Bird and McHale and them running out one time. Parrish running out one time against the.
I don't think so. I don't remember that.
But they hated each other. You could see all the battles between Bird, Mahorn, and
Lambier. Don't forget Lambier.
Yeah,
he battled with everybody. That's why I never got a head coaching job.
Yeah.
The point, but battled with me one time, and Dennis Rodman was my savior at the Boston Garden. I'll never forget the time I tore my leg, my ankle skiing on Christmas Day out in Londonderry, Vermont at Magic Mountain, and I was covering a Pistons and a Celtics game, and Bill Lambier copped an attitude with me in the Pistons locker room, and I told Bill Lambier right to his face. I never liked him anyways, and there's no love lost between the two of us. And Dennis Rodman came and said, "Hey," I told Bill, "just because you can afford your car payment doesn't mean I can afford mine. And I need this to earn an income." And Dennis Rodman went to bat for me. He said, "No, get the heck out of here. I'm talking to this guy, letting him do his job." So God love you, Dennis Rodman. If you ever hear this broadcast, I love you. Even though I'll never forget the time when him and I bowled one time in West Bloomfield, Michigan. And we actually bowled 2 games. I won 1 and he won 1. He saw how the fact that I had a most unusual form. I once won a trophy for most unusual form in bowling. Dennis Rodman noticed it when I was battling against him. I said, "Well, double or nothing. If I win this next game, you got to pay for both games." He did. I did beat him. I just said my unusual form was like your free throw shooting. It wasn't any good, but it got the job done, and we just shared a few laughs. Dennis had that kind of a sense of humor. But getting back on point, Mel, you're right. It takes a lot of guts for like me, being a Detroit guy, hoping Boston wins. But you know what? I got to hope for Boston in a lot of ways. Number one, they're in the Eastern Conference. And for those Milwaukee people out there listening to the show, you always want to feel like you lost to the eventual champion as well. So they can justify the loss. But I don't know.
It's 2 series ago.
Huh?
That was 2 series ago.
Well, so what? So 2 series ago. Come on. How many times would you? Let me ask you a question. Mel, you're the only athlete of this group here. Don't you feel in the back of your mind you'd rather lose to the eventual champion or lose to the runner-up? You tell me.
Well, I mean, we did lose to the eventual champion. So, I mean, it
who
doesn't make you feel any better. I can tell you that.
Maybe it didn't make you
an L is an L, regardless of who you lost to.
At least you're not the Sonics that lost to the eighth seed.
An L is an L. Right. I can't believe I really can't. I have a hard time believing that Phoenix lost that series. Dallas plays like the Lakers. That isolation, that dribble. Luka will dribble the air out of the ball, and then in the last
more
second
pieces
try to
around
pass
him.
it. Guys standing around.
He needs
basketball.
A lot more pieces.
It was terrible basketball. I don't know how Phoenix lost that series.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way. I thought you were looking at a Phoenix-Milwaukee series, but boy, shame on us. And everybody got what they wanted with the Golden State Boston series. But, hey, listen, I got 3 of my co-hosts here tonight that say Golden State will win it. I still believe that Boston's going to win it in 6. So
I would love to be wrong. I hope they do. I would love to. It'll be great if they swept them and keep Draymond's big mouth. And maybe if Draymond kicks someone in the private parts like he likes to do, then they got a chance. But we'll see. But I would love to. I would love to see. I love to see Boston do it.
Tell me how you really feel.
I would too.
Boston's not going to do it.
No, what was your other thought there before we wrap her up?
No, I was saying I would love to see him do it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Game 1 starts tomorrow night on ABC. I believe at 9:00. So I can guarantee you one thing about this series: it won't be on tape delay. So take it for its worth. So, with that said, okay, folks, you're out. This is the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Rough Motor City Man Mouth. Pleased to be joined by Rick Curti, George Eichorn, and Mel Farr Jr. With that said, guys, I'm glad that we had a lot of interesting debate and stimulating conversation for all those of you out there that realize that I probably was on my own island with 2 of these things with Colin Kaepernick. and the NBA Finals. And then again, I was probably on my own island until George Eichorn decided to join me on the NHL one because he pulled a cage out of Rick Curti.
No, I said it before you.
Yeah, all right, yeah, because I let you go first. But okay, I like to do that. I like to be the last one here. Not that I'm looking to make my comments after you. Some of the times I have these comments being judged in my mind. But with that said, let you guys believe who you want to believe out there. We just hope that you go out there, watch it, share it, and send it. Tell everybody about the Sports Exchange. So on that note, Rick, Curti, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
You can find me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. We have an email address at cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. And on our website, you can sign our petition to bring MLB to Charlotte. I'm on Facebook at MLB Charlotte. I'm on there at Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. I'm on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. And I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti.
Very good. All right, George Eichorn.
George Eichorn, author of Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. It's a great book for those of you that would like to get a copy of it. Just visit the South Florida Tribune website, and there'll be a link there that you can pick up a copy of it. You can also reach me on SNG Sports 99 and also on Facebook under my name, George Eichorn. Thank you.
And just a little thought for Eichorn that probably has a short memory. Yours truly, me, is in the book. So,
oh yes, you are.
Jimmy Connors and Muhammad Ali's, but you go out and buy the book, then you can see that I looked I didn't have any gray hair back in that day. All right, well, that's that. I don't know what I had back then, but it wasn't that. All right, Mel Farr, go out there and fire it up for us and let everybody know about everything you represent for all the right reasons. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can reach me on all the social media sites at Mel Farr Jr., Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, email address melfarjr@gmail.com, and follow what we have going on here in Atlanta and up there in Michigan for the kids at melfar.org.
All right, folks, just so you know, the Fire Up Series, Florida and Michigan will have a new night. It moves to Monday night at 9:30, starting at June 6th. So we'll keep you posted. You can also find us on www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter at Tribune South. And also we ask you to please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Obviously, if you want to see the visual part of the broadcast, should point out that you can also contact us at South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. We thank Candy Ebling for the dynamite work she does with the website, both with the broadcast as well as the content. And I should point out, if you want to listen to this show, you can do so at iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, Apple, Google, and Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. So meanwhile, guys, did a great job. It was a lot of fun. I enjoy the diverse opinions here. It's really great to be able to get different opinions. Everybody goes on a limb. Because the best part about it is people know that we can't go ahead and second guess what we said because it's all out there for you to listen and watch. So with that said, on behalf of Rick Curti, George Eichorn, Mel Farr Jr., my name is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. And once again, go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, and you'll be able to get all of our information that I just mentioned above. So meanwhile, take care, folks. Have a great night, and we look forward to the next edition here on the WSFT Broadcasting Network via South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.